Alright guys, welcome to episode 1 of how to make Call of Duty Zombies in Unreal Engine 4. Hey guys, quickly before the video starts, if you end up enjoying the video, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. It's free and you can always change your mind. With that said, I hope you enjoyed the video. In the first episode, we are just going to be working on getting the character set up, getting the project set up, having all the correct inputs, importing the assets into the project, and just generally setting everything up so it will make our life easier later down the line. So without further ado, let's just get into the video. So the first thing we're gonna need is AGR Pro. Very good plugin, very just generally a very good plugin, which we are definitely going to be using. If you haven't installed it yet, all you have to do is to install the engine and use, I already have it so it's going to give an error, and just install it to the version that you're going to be using. I'm going to be using 4.27.2, but you can use whatever you want. This will also be viable in Unreal Engine 5, just so you guys know that. Alright, after we have done that, we're actually going to be importing our weapons that we're going to be using. And the name of that is going to be FPS Weapon Bundle. This is a free bundle you can also find on the Unreal Engine Marketplace. It's this guy right here. All you have to do to install it is just add project, select the project that you're currently running, which is Call of Duty Zombies in my case, and just add it to the project. There you go. Next thing we are gonna set up is we're gonna get the animation starter pack. This is also a free pack. We're gonna be using that to get our feet and our body to have those kind of animations so we can see our body and our feet. Of course, that's gonna be useful when we are doing things like sliding. So add to the project like so. That should be it for now. We can always come back later down the line, but as you can see, we have them right here. Next up is gonna be project settings. We are gonna go into the project settings, and let's delete the VR as we're not gonna be using that, and let's set up some action, and let's set up some action mappings. So the first one we already have jump and fire. We're actually going to be adding a couple more ones, which is going to be reload weapon. And I'm gonna be setting this to R. Then we are gonna have sprinting. If I can type, sprinting, which is gonna be our shift. And I'm actually going to be setting sprinting and running. I'll be showing you guys why later when we actually set up the component. But it's both going to be on the same key. You can do it differently. I'll show you a different way using two separate keys. But I like putting it on the same key and not doing a double tap input for it. The next thing we're going to need is crouching or sliding. And I'm gonna be setting that up to the C key. And let's see, we have jump, fire, reload, sprinting, and crouching. That is going to be it. Oh, of course we're also gonna need aim down sights. And it is what it says. We're gonna be using that to aim down our sights of our weapon, which is going to be procedural, so it will always work fine. Alright, once we have that all set up, we're actually going to go into back into edit, go into plugins, go to AGR, and we are going to be enabling this. You will need to restart the launcher, so I'll see you guys when it's back up. Alright guys, once the project is back online, what we're going to be doing after that is we are actually going to be making our own little folder here. The reason I'm making my own folder is so later down the line everything is nice and organized. You can give it whatever color you want. I'm just gonna go for like a nice pink-ish, or let's do some orange, why not? Alright, once we have this set up, we can go ahead and go to blueprint class. We're gonna be setting up a character blueprint, and we're gonna call it BP zombie character. Why not? By the way, guys, this is not all pre-recorded, or I have a project that I'm looking from. This is all being done as we go along, so it might be that I'm gonna stumble on some things sometimes, but I'll try to cut it out as much as possible and get you guys a good project. Alright, once we have this done, we're actually also gonna be making a animation blueprint. And we are gonna make a animation blueprint for the first person arms. And we're gonna make it a parent of AGR core. What this basically means is that the animation blueprint we're gonna be making is gonna inherit from the AGR core anim instance, so we can access all the variables and all the functions that you have inside of this. Alright, so after that we're gonna call it ABP for animation blueprint, and then we're gonna say zombie character. Alright, once we have those two things set up, we're gonna be starting in the blueprint. Be setting it up like this, and first I'm gonna set everything up, and after that I'm gonna be explaining what's going on and why we're doing it a certain way. So the first thing we are gonna do is attach to this mesh, we're gonna add a camera like so, and we're gonna be setting up kind of like this. We can always tweak that later. Next, on the camera, we're going to be attaching a skeletal mesh, and we're going to call it FPS arms. These will be our main arms that we will see in the viewport, as we're going to make the body and the arms separately. It's not going to be a true first person, but we're going to make it kind of in two separate parts. That way we can only animate the arms and then have a default reload for the shadow. Anyway, once that is done, just type in arms right here, and it's gonna say first person character mesh. Okay, just like so. And for the values here, we're actually going to be looking at the first person template. So if you open up the first person character, and we're gonna go to the mesh 2p, which is the arms, we can actually copy the location and right click paste, and also the rotation, copy and paste. And if we now set this up to be the zombie character, like so. Now it's gonna look off, it's not gonna look like this, and that is because the animations are not running yet. To fix this, what we can quickly do is go into core, go into the animation blueprint of our zombie character. And for now, let's just say we do idle, just to show you guys, right? If we now do this, as you can see, it's gonna look just like it is right here. And that is because this is just the way our animations have been set up, so that the default animations are set up. So alright, after this we are going to do another skeletal mesh, which is just for now it's gonna be a placeholder. We're gonna call it FPS gun. Afterwards we're gonna be changing this with the weapon system, but for now let's just keep it like this. We're gonna be setting this to be the SKFB gun, which is just the default gun. We're gonna be attaching it to the grip point, like so. And if we now go into the world settings, and we're gonna be changing the first person character, we're actually also gonna be deleting this guy. For the default pawn class, we're just gonna be setting it to BB zombie character. And if we now spawn in, as you can see, we have, well, the first person template basically. Once we have that set up, next up down the list is going to be adding the feet. So we are also going to be next up we are going to be getting the body in place and the shadows. So click on the mesh and we're going to be adding another skeletal mesh, which is going to be third person or TPP, and we're going to be calling this legs. For the mesh, it's going to be the mannequin from the animation starter pack. We're going to be moving this down by 88, which is the capsule half height, and minus 90. Now, the issue we're going to be running into, if we do it like this, our character will just be going through the camera. Also, let's just move the camera to where the head would be. So something like that, probably. Yeah. Alright. So I can quickly show you guys. To set up controls, we can just go here and we can copy the stick input, the movement input, and the mouse input and the jump. Just copy it from the default first person template. Go into the event graph. We're actually going to be making a new graph to kind of keep it organized, which is going to be the control graph. Alright, once in the control graph, just paste it in. And if we now compile, it's going to give us a lot of errors. Now, why is this? First of all, we don't have these variables set up. So what you do is right click on them, create variable, right click on this guy, create variable. Now the default value for these is 45. You can play around with this value, it just means how fast your sensitivity is, but later down the line we're going to be making adjustable sensitivities anyway. The next error it's going to give is the fact that the head mounted display uses the forward vector of the first person camera for VR. Since we're not using VR, we can just delete this and this. We can just plug that in here. And that is like so. Same thing here, just delete those two, delete that, and set this up. Just like so. We're gonna be also, let's delete this, make it a little nicer, like so. So these are gonna be the move forward slash move right, like so. Let's make it a nice purple, why not? And let's save the color. If you left click on this and you hold it, you can actually save the color to like a color swatch, which you can then later downline use. I don't know, like if you know that, fine. If you don't know that, now you know. Once you have that set up, we also have the controller setups. This can actually stay stick input, that's fine. And we're just gonna give it the same color. Like so. Next up is the turn and the look up, which is gonna be mouse inputs. Once again, we'll just keep it for the time being. Just change the color so we know it's a input. Like so. And now for this is going to be a input action, which is something else. It's not like this. This has an access value. This does not. This relies on a button press. So we're going to give this a nice, say a nice orange. Why not? There you go. And let's put that right. Once we have this set up, the next thing we are going to be doing is setting up the animation blueprint for our legs, and then we're going to be setting up a shadow. So first things first, also if you want to test this out, let's quickly test it, make sure everything works. Alright, after we have this all set up, you're gonna see, if you play the game right now, you're gonna be noticing an issue where you cannot look up and down. Now the reason for that is because the camera is not using the pawn control rotation. What the pawn control rotation is it will actually use the rotation of the input device. So for example, I'm using a mouse, but you can also use a controller. it's going to be getting that input and you rotating the camera accordingly. So if you go into the game right now, as you can see, it will work perfectly. But the main issue that we're seeing right now is the fact that, well, we're in our body. The reason for this is because it's not using any animations, and also the legs need to be further back. We can show this by, for example, if we go back into the blueprint and we select our legs and we move them back a little bit, something like that, we can then check it out. That is already a lot better, right? But so we're going to be setting up the legs right now, the animation blueprint for it. So we're going to right click again, right click, go to animation, animation blueprint, HDR core anim instance, and we're going to be selecting the mannequin from the animation starter pack. So we're going to be selecting that one. And we're going to be calling it ABP for animation blueprint again. And we're going to be saying zombie character legs. We can call this zombie character arms, but it kind of makes sense. Alright, we're going to open this up. And for now, we are just going to be putting the... Do they have a walk? No. Alright. We're quickly going to be setting up like a default state for this. Afterwards, we're going to be implementing like strafing and stuff. But for now, let's just make a state machine. Like so. We're going to be calling this default. Or let's say locomotion state machine. Okay. I'm going to be dragging this into a slot, default slot. If you guys don't know what this is, it basically makes sure that you can play montages. Otherwise, if you don't have this, you cannot play montages from this character. Once that is done, we're going to be dragging that in there. If we compile, it's going to give a warning because we don't have anything in it yet. So we're going to double click on it. And if you drag out from the entry, you can actually add a state, which is going to be idle. That is for when we are standing still. The next one is going to be walk/run, like so. And we're going to be adding a arrow back into idle so you can transition both ways. You can also say bidirectional, but I like to do it like this, makes it a little bit more readable. So for in our idle, we're just going to say idle rifle hip. Let's drag that in there and compile. And now our character will be having a idle pose. Once that is done, we can actually say walk. And we can look at, we have walk backwards and walk forwards. And left and right. So we're going to be setting up a blend space for this. To set up a blend space, we are going to go into animation, blend space. We're going to select our mannequin. And we're going to be calling this BS for blend space. And we're going to be saying, let's say something in the lines of legs movement. Something like that. You can name it whatever you want, it doesn't really matter. We're going to be opening this up. And for our horizontal and vertical axes. Horizontal is basically just the x-axis right here. And vertical is going to be up and down. So what we're going to say is for the horizontal is going to be move right. And we're going to be normalizing the values. So we're going to say -1 to 1. And we're going to be setting up like 10. You'll see why in a second. Second one is going to be move forward. Also -1 to 1 with a 10 grid selection. And we're going to be setting up our target weight to like 4. If you guys want to get an explanation, I'll quickly explain how this works. If not, you can always skip forward like 10 or 20 seconds and continue on with the video. I'll put a timestamp down below. . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . Alright guys, from here what we're going to do is we're going to be setting up the idle. So we're going to say idle mid, it's going to be right in the middle, and then for walking we have basically 4 different ones, right? We have the, wait, it has rifle iron sights. That's if you walk forward. It doesn't matter because our body will be hidden anyway. Alright, so for the first one, what we're going to do is walk forwards is going to be on top right here, and it will start walking forward. Now if we say walk backwards, it's going to be right here. Walk left is going to be on the left side, and walk right on the right side, like so. And if you now look at the blend space, you will have a full directional system. Once that is done, we go back into our blueprint, our animation blueprint, and we are going to go into walk run. We're going to be adding the blend space we just made, which is BS legs movement. Add that in here, like so. Now, for the values, we need to normalize them, and we need to get them from the AGR plugin. To do that, all you need to do is go to this little eye right here and say show inherited variables, like so. It will say a check mark when it's fine. We're gonna go into the event graph, and if you go to variables, this little drop down will appear. AGR, then go into movement, and we're gonna need the forward velocity. By the way, if you control left click and hold it, you're actually going to be bringing a get, and if you do alt and drag it in, it's going to set it. Sorry, right, we cannot set AGR variables, but if you hold alt and then drag it out, it's going to be set whatever variable that we can do. Afterward, so go control, drag, let it go, and we have the forward and the strafe. From here, what we're going to do is we're going to drag out of it and do a divide by, like so. And we're going to be saying 360. Going to be copying this and pasting this, like so. If you guys quickly want to know what this does, I'll put it in the, if you right click on it, you can say a node comment, and it will say normalize forward value between -1 and 1. And then for the strafe, it's basically gonna do the same thing. What it's gonna do is say normalize strafe value between -1 and 1. I could quickly show you what it does by, if we print string. By the way guys, you don't need to do this, I'm just quickly doing this to show you guys what's going on exactly. If we append, if you guys don't want to see this, just skip forward a little bit. Like for the people who do want to know, I'll be happy to explain it right now. So if we say forward velocity and a space with a, like so, and then we're gonna be saying, actually let's get rid of that, it's just a forward velocity like so. We're gonna be space slash space, and then drag in the forward velocity, add a pin, forward velocity like so, and then make another pin, let's say like double space like so, then say strafe velocity, and like so, and then add this value to it like so. Let's say 0. Alright, now if you go into the game, what is going, oh, we actually need to assign this too, so let's go here, assign this legs to it like so. What it's now going to do, as you can see on the top, if you move forward, it's going to go to 600, which is your max value that you can set up. If you go back, it's going to say like minus 600. If you go right, it's going to be 600, 600. You get the picture. Now, what's going to happen if we normalize these values? What it is going to do is actually make it between a value of like 1, it's going to be 1.6. It's a little bit more, but like it basically normalizes the values. So you can go right, you can go left, as you can see, minus 1.66, positive 1.66. Basically normalizes the values so we can use it in the blend space, and it just makes the values easier to work with. Alright, so once we have this done, if you guys skipped it, you can start right here. We're actually going to be continue now. So we're going to delete this print string and this append, like so. And now to keep this clean, what I'm going to do is actually grab both of them and collapse to macro, because we're going to be using it quite a bit. We're just going to say M for macro, and we're going to say normalize movement values, like so. And it's not going to be usable like this, so double click on it. And we're just going to be setting the outputs rights like this. Our first output is going to be the normalized forward. And our second one is going to be our normalized strafe, like so. You can clean this up if you want, like so. Go back into our, if you click on this arrow, it's just going to bring you back to the previous tab, so we're going to be doing that. And we're going to be setting up these variables by promoting them to a variable, normalized forward and the normalized strafe. If you could double click on one of these strings, is actually going to make a reroute note, which is really useful to just keep your project clean. Once that is done, we are going to go back into the movement, the walk run state for the legs movement, and we're going to be dragging in the normalized values, so forward and strafe. There you go. And if we now hit play and we look at our legs, we do see our arms, but we're going to be fixing that in a minute. But as you can see, you can, one quick thing, I'm sorry, that is my mistake. We do need to add the AGR animator to our zombie character blueprint. And once you have that set up, also go into the setup on the right, and we're going to be setting the rotation method to absolute rotation and the rotation speed to like, say 950. I'll be explaining all of this in a second, but for now, let's just hit play, check it out. And it's still right. After looking at the project for a second, I did find another issue that I forgot to say, and it's just in our zombie character. We didn't say any transition rules. Now these are quite simple. All you have to do is for idle to go into walk run, you're gonna go into the anim states, the states, and you're gonna say if he is not idle, he is gonna be moving. Can copy this, and then if he is walking and want to go back to idle, the boolean idle needs to be true. And now if we go into the game, we are moving. It's hard to see with the arms, but we are moving, our legs are moving quite nicely, and everything is working as intended. Alright, now that we have that done, we are actually going to be going in our zombie character. And the last thing we're going to do for this episode is we are going to be adding a shadow and hiding the body so we don't see our arms. To hide the body, quite simple. What we're going to do is go into the event graph, and on begin play we're going to drag out our legs and we're going to say hide bone by name. What the hide bone by name is going to do, it's quite simple. it will hide the bone that you specified and everything above it. Yeah, everything above it. I'm sorry, I was getting confused. So if we set, for example, spine 03 and we go into the game, as you can see, our arms are now completely gone and we just have a pelvis. I'll show you. If I go to F8, we only have this pelvis right now. Nothing above it is being displayed, which is quite handy for us as we're going to be using this. Now, as you can see, our shadows are, well, awful. So what we're going to be doing for now to fix this, and later down the line we're going to get a better system going, but for now let's just make sure it looks nice before we end the video. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into our arms and we're going to say cast shadow to be off. This way our arms will not cast a shadow. Also for the FPS gun, we're going to say cast shadow none. Now for our legs, what we are going to do also is cast shadow, set it to none. So now all the shadow should be gone. As you can see, we have no more shadow. Now to fix our shadow issue, what we are going to do is just copy and paste our TP legs, and we're going to be calling, attach it to the mesh first of all. Then we can say reset. We're going to get the location and the rotation from our legs, like so. And then we're going to be leaving it like this. The only thing we're going to do is say render in main pass, and we're going to be disabling this. What this basically does is it will not render the mesh, but it will keep the shadow. So after that, we also want to say cast shadow and turn this one to be true. And if we now go into the game, as you can see, we do have our working shadow. But he's not holding a gun, and we are holding a gun. So, how we can fix that? Well, we're basically going to be copying the FPS gun, and we're going to say TPP gun, attaching it to the legs, and we're going to be calling this TPP shadow. So attach the gun to the shadow, reset the orientations, and we're going to say hand right. Now you need to tweak this a little bit, but we're going to be changing it anyway, so let's not waste too much time on it. If you want to do it a little bit better, you can always go here, show advanced, pause the animation. Sorry, not from the legs. Pause the animation on the shadow. Yes, and we can actually, for now, you can do hidden or not visible. Attach this to the shadow, right? And let's re-enable the render main pause so we can put it at the right location for a second. So we're gonna be putting it in the right location, something like this. Maybe go down a little bit, and then let's say like go left by 1 click, something like that. After that, go back into the shadow and into the gun, like so, and let's say render in main pause, which is not true. Then after that, we can leave everything else, but we do want to cast a shadow on the FPS gun. So go into TPP gun, make sure cast shadow is turned on. Then the TPP shadow is fine. Make sure whenever you start the game that you unpause the animation, like so. And if you now go into the game, as you can see, we will have a weapon attached to the third person. We have the shadow, and well, our legs do seem to be gone. Let's see, TPP legs, oh, because we disabled the visibility. So turn that back on. After that, as you can see, we have our shadow. which is working quite nice. It has a gun in hand. We can move around. We can go right. We can strafe. Like so. And everything is working fine. We're going to be making this look a lot better in the next episodes. But this is going to be it for episode 1. If you guys did enjoy it, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Comment what you want to see next, or if you have any suggestions, I would love to hear them, and I can always make it into this video or into a separate video for you guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. This was Reborn, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. See ya.